on the subject of TikToks, my favorite one ever actually occurred, and Michael is the, bleeding heart and soul of this podcast, because much like a child just watching, everything in the world presented to it for the first time, Michael is just awash in wonder at everything that happens on this podcast, and I'm glad the world gets to see it now.
And it's also really hard to describe that TikTok to people that don't know the podcaster Michael, which I found out because I was trying to tell my coworker about it because I had these stitches. And I was like, do you know that song? It just doesn't work. You can't describe it. So. Speaking of TikToks, though, care to give a quick week in review on how I've done with your curated feed from me, Shane?
I believe my exact sentence from last night was be, period, better, period.
Did you see my response?
I didn't see your response yet. I only open TikTok when I really want to try to talk myself onto the ledge to kill myself.
Fair enough.
Must be pretty often then.
No. Yeah, I mean, I get it nightly. Right before I'm about to get in the shower, then I take my clothes off and I'm really on the verge of, I'm at death's door. Every time I get in the shower, I was like, I could slip and fall on something and just not make it out of this.
Where's my trusty dusty toaster?
It's the brave little toaster.
Now there's something
Goes
to
Shane's
animate.
house.
Some happy-go-lucky, smiley, inanimate object, and I'm just like, you're coming with me.
Okay, just because I went and saw a horror movie earlier today. But what
was it the Oscars?
No, hear me out here. They've made the movie Rubber. Where a tire kills people. What
Damn
about
near killed her.
A remake of the Brave Little Toaster? Nice. What about a reimagining of the Brave Little Toaster where it is a toaster that is just killing people in the bath? Like he's going through a neighborhood, routinely finding people in the bath and just jumping in and electrocuting them to death.
It'd be a 5-minute long film because he'd only get one shot,
one opportunity.
that thing is going to be scorched out and, pardon the pun, toasted. It will not be able to get a second attempt.
Well, what if he had supernatural abilities as well?
Okay,
he
so
could
it's
infinitely jump. Like he is made of electricity.
It's the Chucky doll of toasters.
Yes.
Okay, so it both has sentience and a permanent battery charge it can turn on and off without frying circuitry.
But you have to call it the Brave Little Toaster. That's the only thing.
Well, trademark infringement is a problem.
It's more
with
like
that,
the Grave Little Toaster.
There we go. And then there will be spin-offs. There will be the Bride of the Grave Little Toaster. Didn't they have
Grave
children
Little
at one
Toaster
point?
X, Grave Little Toaster in space.
I have this image in my head now, like of a antique claw tub. And at the foot of the claw tub is just a toaster. It's all just one outline sketch, and there's the little cord dangling off.
Beautiful.
Well, speaking of death warmed over, welcome, friends. And how do I even start this show? What do I do?
What's
Ladies
my
and
motivation?
germaphobes, boils and ghouls, gremlins of all ages, welcome to another cash money installment of this, the Disinformed podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm John.
I'm Michael.
I don't want to be here. I'm Courtney.
Join the club.
That was a very cash money entrance there.
That is both going to be your catchphrase and your new handle. You are going to be Michael Cash Money Clark.
Don't tell
it's
the
going to be
IRS.
MC.
Whoa. MCMC.
If that's the new catchphrase for the show, then I am not having a Baja Blast.
Oh.
You're going to have a Baja Blast when I get that toaster in the tub with you.
Ooh.
Here's me wishing you would.
I'm going to Baja Blast you out of this existence.
Just like Taco Bell.
All onto your face, neck, and chest.
And speaking of face, necks, and chest, how about that Will Smith? Just a bastion of self-control.
You guys know me pretty well, I think, right?
I would hope.
You know how much I like public freakouts and fights.
How many times did you watch that clip?
That's what I'm about to tell you because we went to see Shane Smith at Stand Up Live on Sunday night, and when we got back, I forgot like stand up shows they get out so early, like it's an hour and a half, and you're basically gone. So I was like home by like 10 o'clock, and I'd seen like Twitter rumblings or like little whatever that something had happened, and I was like, oh, that could be something fun to put on. I need more lighthearted fare, and I pull up YouTube and I watch it, and I shit my pants about it.
And then he had to
everything.
deal with the shit, so he was even more happy. It was a great night.
And then
No. Depends.
On what? Becky's like, all right, well, I have to go to bed. This is after Courtney, or did you guys come? No, that was this
Saturday
whole last
night.
weekend. There's a lot of shit that happened over the weekend.
Indeed.
Anywho, she's like, I have to go to bed. And as she's walking up the steps, I'm finding related videos and like alt angles and like uncensored. And then there's one where it was like dubbed in Japanese. And Becky's getting ready for bed. This is like 15 minutes of me watching this same, 45-second clip. And she comes out of her bathroom before she's like lays down. She's like, are you still watching the fucking slap videos? And she's like, it's adorable, but it's also terrifying. Like, watch something else.
You should have seen me with the terrorist beheading videos I got last month.
You were not ready for me in middle school.
Indeed.
Ooh, edgy.
Jihad on that.
Pickle, therefore try two-handing. Anyway, I think if we're going to air our opinions on it, I think Chris Rock did not do anything wrong, and Will Smith is a punk-ass bitch. Also, get ready for Chris Rock to have a huge, huge upswing in his career because he handled it so professionally. It was outstanding.
Okay.
Hot take.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know I was dropping fire, but you guys let me hang there. So
Yeah, that's what we do.
I mean, I'm not that interested
on
in
the
it.
floor.
You want my uninformed hot take?
You didn't even know that it happened until we told you.
I watched it on Monday, okay? They were talking about it at work, and so I watched it a couple of times. It was kind of anticlimactic. The like
What do you
the
want
build
to
up to it.
happen?
I don't know. It felt like he's like almost like you insulted my wife, wham, or something like that. But it was just like a casual strut up to stage and just a slap and then walk away.
It's because he was fake. He threw Chris Rock off his game. He's like, oh, here comes my friend Will Smith. We've been in movies together. Wrong. Whack.
I'm going to take the cynical approach and say it was all planned.
Like the
Son
moon
of a
landing
bitch.
before it, yes.
Mhm.
You
Also
fucking
shot
fuck.
by,
Kubrick actually came out of retirement. When I mean retirement, I mean death.
the grave. Yeah.
Yes, to film that one slap.
Indeed.
Mhm.
Indeed.
Yeah. You can tell by the
Yeah.
shot. You can tell by the cinematography. It's clearly staged.
Well, contrary to the rules of any good podcast, I'm going to say my opinion does not matter in this at all. But yeah, I mean, there's blood on all sides here. It's a bad joke, in kind of insensitive given the context. So, I mean,
Going
you can
through that shit
understand
for
how someone's going to get
years.
upset. Like, it's not like he went out and said, like, Bad Boys is a shitty film. Like, it's a little bit different.
That's when you throw hands.
Oh, so you've seen Bad Boys now?
Yeah. One, and they did do a sequel at the time,
They
right?
did.
Yeah,
They have
okay.
done 3.
Not,
Who
I'm not
knows?
talking about the like one that came out last year. They did one. They did like a Bad Boys like almost remake or something like that.
We get it. You're in love with Will Smith. It's fine.
I mean, he is a
He
Fresh
is
Prince.
legend.
Yeah.
He's legend.
So yeah, in any event, I mostly was just watching how much everyone combusted around the subject,
Yeah.
and everybody has an opinion. And again, the only thing I will really harp on is he could have shown a little bit more restraint. If you really want to make a point, like you could have just yelled and popped off and gotten angry that way. But a public assault is a public assault. So I'm like, yeah. Kudos to Chris Rock for taking that in stride and being professional and just running with it. But yeah, I don't think there's anybody who escapes unscathed out of this. But
No.
yeah, I don't intend to be too serious on this. But it's just weird how divisive everything is these days. Like, we have to shore up sides around everything. There just can't be a middle ground where you're like, yeah, everybody was kind of shitty in this. Like, there's always this weird sort of like, let's teeter-totter this and just see how everybody shakes out.
Can we meet in the middle here and say that that whole event and happening would have been improved tenfold by somebody in the audience yelling, "Grab his dick and twist it"?
You know what? I agree.
Where's
Why
my
the hell
non?
not?
Where's my non button? Saving the best for last. Courtney, you got anything to throw in here?
Got
other
any
than
hot
dick twisting?
takes?
I don't have any hot takes. I'm kind of with Shane on the, like, it was just, like, bad all around. Like, because Will Smith was seen laughing at the joke, and then he got mad about the joke, and for me, that's weird. And, like, I could understand how his wife would not like the joke. It was a joke about something inflicted by her autoimmune disorder. As someone with an autoimmune disorder, like, yeah, I don't think jokes about it are that funny, but I think it was an overreaction.
I personally think that he should have grabbed Chris Rock's dick and twisted it.
Well, personally, I think that Greedo shot first.
You're not wrong. We
I
can agree
think
on
we're
that.
all in agreement with that.
Indeed.
And that is canon.
So, it's a hand cannon. See the size of that hand cannon he pointed at us? All right. So, obviously, we have defunct the concept of having just a quick, introduction and into the episode. So, congratulations, Duan. You have officially incepted John that it is better to do this.
There's
Back
no
on our
rules.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Market zero. So I should explain to the listening audience here that what we typically do on this show is we will delve into random esoteric topics. In the course of explaining them to one another, we will lie about them occasionally. That is the fun shtick that we have founded the show on. But of course, it is then incumbent upon the co-hosts to then call out the lies as we hear them, ferret the fact from the fiction, if you will. And, that's the game. It's fun. But we will not allow you, the listener, to leave disinformed. Oh, no. We have a little denouement at the end of the episode. We tell you what it was that we fibbed about and why it was supposed to be funny, and perhaps fell short of the goal, as it all too often does in my installments, which are not very cash money, as Michael will tell you.
But they are.
I disagree.
A Baja
I think
Blast.
They're so cash
I will
money, guys.
reiterate, because of a loud noise, it is not very cash money, as Michael will tell you.
It is, however, a Baja Blast, Shane.
It is,
I don't
indeed.
know. I think they're very cash money.
This is officially the cursed episode, because, before that, our doorbell rang, my dog started barking, 30 seconds passed, and then the buzzer went off on the dryer. So, altogether, I'm giving you so much to work with here,
You're
Michael.
you're giving us a symphony of background noise.
Indeed.
Yes.
Or a Rube Goldberg of podcast editing. But enjoy. Keep all that in. It's very important for the listeners to know the hurdles you have to clear in order to bring them this glorious content.
If we add a trigger at the, or not a trigger, if we add a preface or a disclaimer at the beginning, then we're all good, right?
The audience has had enough trigger, I think, over the past 2 weeks. I think
know
we've
about
disabused
that.
them of ever wanting to hear about trigger again.
Darn it.
Yeah, I usually need to give myself a little bit of a ramp up time before I can trigger again.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're not in your 20s anymore. It's understandable. You do need a little reload time.
Yeah, I really do.
Yes. Well, ladies, gentlemen, germaphobes, all of you out there, today is a day that must be marked on a calendar somewhere, because a rare occurrence, much like a leap year or perhaps a lunar eclipse, is going to occur, because there is going to be a topic presented by a man in a purple shirt.
Oh my God.
And that man is me, allegedly.
Whoa.
Indeed.
That's very
Allegedly.
cash money.
Now,
Hey, Michael, I
start
think
by
Legal
saying-
just sent you something.
said,
Damn, how
do
did
it.
you know?
Said, do it, you won't.
No, I actually think it said, we have trademarked cash money, Michael Clark.
Oh.
So you now have a quota to say that at least 12 times an episode.
Oh, I'll run it into the ground.
Yeah, that is the
Well-
Michael catchphrase of the future.
That is a
And-
promise.
You will not believe your eyes.
If 10,000 cash money flies?
You will not believe your eyes.
You won't. You will not believe your eyes.
Well, I'm happy to be here today, guys.
Good.
Well,
That's new.
That makes one of us.
thank you, Don.
I pivoted because I was like, you know what? I could really put my head down and bang out the Testament of Solomon, the part 2 that I have in the works.
Bullshit.
I could really do a great, I could really just nail it.
We're already starting with the lies. Okay.
Yeah, but then I decided I got a random idea, and I was like, if this isn't too difficult, because I don't want to research, then I'm going to go with it. So that's what I went with today.
Public assault.
Before I get started,
We're going to talk about the slap heard around the world.
And there are 5 lies today.
Ooh.
I think
Nice.
it's probably the most lies I've ever had in one of my topics, considering I've only had like 3 topics. But some prefatory matters.
Ooh, look at you, Stephen King in this.
Yeah, The Shining. 2015 was an interesting time for our country. Former New England Patriot star Aaron Hernandez was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without parole after killing Odin Lloyd. Bethesda finally released Fallout 4. Are you okay, Shane?
You watched 3 football games in your life, and you're going to start throwing out athlete names. Okay.
Well, in 2015, Bethesda also finally released Fallout 4.
Mm-hmm.
Alamo Drafthouse opened its doors for the first time. The Supreme Court made a landmark decision voting to allow same-sex couples to marry nationwide. The Hateful Eight was released, and that's now my favorite Tarantino movie.
It's in the running.
But truth be told, the best thing that happened in all of 2015 was that my favorite band, The Deer Hunter, released their album Act 4, Rebirth and Reprise.
Holy shit! Also, first off, is the legalizing marriage for the whole country bullshit? Because I thought that was slightly earlier than that, than 2015.
Nope, it's 2015.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I feel a little bit more disgusted with our country. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. Well, if you
Man.
listen to our... what, are you okay, Shane?
I spoke too soon about, landmark things that would never occur. And suddenly, like 2 seasons in a movie, you're completing your story
God
arc
damn.
here.
Oh, it feels good. In case you
are you
haven't
gonna
listened
give
to
us
our
a-
podcast.
Okay, good.
Yes. Or rather, the first few episodes, you'll know that I talked about the Deer Hunter before. Formed in 2005 by Casey Crescenzo, Deer Hunter was created as an island of misfit songs that didn't fit into his other project at the time, The Receiving End of Sirens. When Casey departed from Sirens, he began seriously digging into the material and shortly put out a demo and then a debut LP that began a series of 5, potentially 6 at this point, concept albums called The Axe. Yes, sir.
No, I was just crossing my fingers.
Oh, sick.
For the
I
potentially
need
6.
another. Yes, I need another album.
And this is neither here nor there, but I've heard that Act 6, if it does end up happening, might not even be an album. It might just be like a show, a movie, a play. Like there's speculation on what it's going to be.
Yeah, it was supposed to be some sort of a film at some point.
He was quoted as saying that it's not going to be a traditional rock album if it ends up being a thing. And also, they recently sold a box set that includes an insert for an Act 6 if it ever does exist on vinyl, which I thought was
Ooh.
interesting. Anyway. So on
Foreshadowing.
Yes. On episode 5 of our show, I told whoever listened to the episode about the first 3 albums in the series. But for those new to the show, I'm going to do a recap. And it is long-winded, but we're doing the whole story today. So a little recap and then finishing it out. Yes, Shane?
Wait.
Your Google Doc is still functioning.
It is still functioning.
Okay,
And
let's
if
knock
you look
wood
at our
and just
analytics
hope.
and you see one person listen to that episode this week, it was me to make sure.
Bro, it wasn't episode 5. It was episode 3.
Congratulations, you caught a lie.
I was like, wait a fucking minute. That was your first episode that you presented. Get out of here. That was the WWE
yeah, I
Hall
figured-
of Fame, and I had to cheat to look it up.
I figured I would throw that in there.
You threw me off my game. I haven't had John Lies in so long. I'm just not prepared for your delivery.
You got to set yourself back 2 seasons in order to get back into the mindset for these lies. They're going to be list lies,
back in town.
number lies. Yeah, the whole smorgasbord.
You know,
Indeed.
I did heavily debate after re-listening to that episode on just not doing a single lie and making that the completed arc.
No.
Because I teased that then. But anyway. So the Acts part 1 through 3 take place at the turn of the 20th century and tells the tale of a boy named Hunter, born of a prostitute by the name of Miss Terry. mystery. While pregnant with Hunter, Miss Terry decided to flee from the city she was working in to properly raise her son. They live in a foresty area near a lake and a river. The city she escaped from is politically and spiritually manipulated by the local priest, referred to as the Pimp and the Priest, who, in addition to running the church, also runs a brothel called the Dime. He exists in a cycle of absolving sins in the daylight and creating sins at night. Time passes and Hunter's mother passes away. And by passes away, she was murdered when he is a teenager. After he buries her, he falls into an existential crisis out of nowhere and decides to leave the lake and the river to catch a train and move to the city and see what life has in store for him. On the train, the Delphi Express, he encounters for the first time an oracle. Disguised as transients on the train, they warn Hunter not to move to the city, just return to a simple life. Nothing good's going to happen if he continues on. He ignores them, and he continues on anyway. It's here that he finds the city and the Dime, subsequently, and also a woman named Misleading. He's naive and doesn't realize that she is, in fact, a sex worker. He loses his virginity and falls head over heels for the gal.
Like you do.
Yeah, and what feels like a win-win, he's also offered a job as a limo driver by the Pimp and the Priest so that he can perceivably keep seeing Misleading. So anyway, during the day and into the night, he drives Misleading around, oblivious to what all the stops mean in the route. One day during a stop, he realizes that Misleading has left something behind in the limo, and he runs after her to return it to her and walks in on her, hard at work. Heartbroken.
In flagrante, if you will.
Heartbroken and drunk, he writes a letter with a lot of strong words towards Misleading that he throws into the sea before enlisting in the army to go join the war efforts of World War I. While on the ship, the oracles from earlier return and encourage him to not go to the war and maybe just to go back to the lake and the river, and he ignores their advice.
How many times do I have to tell you, old man? I don't want to go back.
You're a bum. You're dirt.
Get out of here.
Listen, there's just not much to look at. There's like a tree and a river and then like two foxes fucking, and that's it. There ain't nothing left.
There's
Only thing I got to talk to is my left hand. My right one's busy.
Only so many times you can jack it to pictures of titties you drew in the dirt.
I disagree with that.
Not with that attitude.
In his 20s and now active in the war effort, Hunter witnesses the darkness of humanity, fights in countless battles, and generally gets the humanity stomped out of him. After narrowly avoiding death in a particularly gruesome battle, he stumbles upon a woman who masquerades as like a helpful merchant, but in fact, she's hiding a secret, and that's that she secretly poisons all the men that she sells product to. So they refer to her as the Poison Woman. She's hiding. Edit that. Cut that. She gifts him.
Cut it quick.
She gifts him a vial of poison instead of killing him. He leaves, and he's stumbling around trying to get back to camp, and then he also stumbles upon a thief by the name of Pierre, who tickles the existential dread in Hunter by explaining the reason that he prefers to steal from the dead. They don't have a use for earthly possessions anymore. Like, why leave it behind if you can
Ooh, that
make
tickles
good use
me
from
existentially.
I was just waiting for Michael to throw a
I was
waiting for that.
very tempted. I figured I would do one overused trope on my end today.
Oh, I see. Well, it's also worth noting, once Hunter got off the boat, he turned to everyone and said, "Hey!"
That's actually what the song King of Swords is about.
Indeed.
Well, it
Reversed.
was set in the French countryside, right? So he was terrorizing the public in one way or another.
He was terrorizing the countryside.
It's one of my favorite wrestlers. Yes. Terrorizing.
Well, continuing Hunter's streak of amazing luck, he winds up in another battle, one that introduces him and the world to mustard gas. Right when he thinks he will die, he's saved by a fellow soldier who, eerily, looks just like him. And I put in a trigger warning in case we're still doing those, just to be safe.
Yeah, you know.
Later on, the two men are drinking in a bar and overhear a captain loudly boasting of his sexual conquests, proceeding to detail having had forceful sex with a woman from the Dime. By description, it sounds exactly like Hunter's mom, Miss Terry. The captain has a son, and that's the man who saved Hunter's life. And what kind of happens or is alluded to is that Hunter is they're half brothers, is the general gist that you get here. And the father is, of course, the man who woohooed his mother. Hunter is happy to have a half brother, but conflicted on how to feel about the father because of, well,
the father.
obvious reasons. Yeah. Yeah. Well, shortly after.
Woohoo.
Yeah. Shortly
Okay,
after
so
all this
this
goes
story is now going to turn into a tale of many woohoos.
down. Yeah, very much so. So shortly after Hunter's half-brothers killed in action, his last words roughly telling Hunter that they look so much alike that he might as well go back to the city and, I guess, America, and assume his identity with a new life. After, of course, killing the father so that there's no one else alive that really could, refute that it's him.
Mhm.
So Hunter does this by using the poison he received from the poison woman, and the end of Act 3 sees Hunter heading back to the city to assume a new life with his half-brother's identity. Like I said, a little bit long-winded recapping all that because it is a little dense.
It's necessary.
It was very necessary, yes, because this was 135 episodes ago.
But I feel like that was a pretty good, previously on the Deer Hunt.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And I feel caught up. I remember a lot of the stuff that happened.
And no puns here, but I'm still going to use broad strokes when we get through the rest of the story because Act 4 and Act 5 are,
Dance.
in my opinion, meant to be consumed in one chunk anyway, which is why I stopped at Act 3. And yeah, I'm chunking here. Yeah.
I'm chunking here.
And I re-listened to the whole Act series while putting this together, and it holds up so well. I'll put a link in the show notes. There's a YouTube video that compiles all the motifs and foreshadowing, call responses throughout the whole series, and it's pretty great.
Yeah, it's extraordinarily well written and exceedingly well composed. It has a lot of orchestral elements, which we talked about previously as well, which you gotta love.
In fact, after Act 5 came out, I think it was actually near COVID time, they put out what's called The Fox and the Hunt, which is all orchestral versions and reimaginings, like remixy stuff of Act 4 and 5, because Act 4 and 5 were recorded secretly all at once. And they want balls to the wall. Like Acts 1 through 3, there's a lot of digital stuff that they did, like virtual instruments, but on Act 4 and 5, they actually got the Awesome Orchestra. I think they're based out of San Francisco, and they found funding to get an actual orchestra to record on both of the albums. So they are massive, and the reason they're massive is because they're authentic.
Oh.
But anyway, I was going to go into more about production details, and then I realized that the story's longer than I thought, so I decided to kind of leave. I was going to dive in and try and find nerdy shit, but
I was going to say, what's the budget so I can call bullshit on it?
Right. Well.
Wow, Michael, you're being so
sorry.
mean today.
That
Can
honestly,
you
that was
stop?
mean. That was mean. I'm sorry, John.
We all know,
Actually-
that he is the meanest member of the podcast. So.
I am tonight.
In point of fact, though, that joke was very cash money of you.
That was
Thank
actually
you.
very cash money. Well, and here we go. And let's hope this doesn't fall off the rails, because I didn't proofread some of this, and I wrote some of this really drunk and high.
Okay.
No. Okay, I actually am now really, really excited for the presentation.
Suddenly I feel like I'm on stage again.
The flashbacks.
I'm not
the
Sam.
PTSD.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, I was just waiting for another band member to just fall down.
Yeah. The only time that I fall down is when drunk girls do somersaults and knock a mic into my teeth.
Nobody wants a mic in their teeth.
Listen, I was making them very vigorously shake their money makers, so I
what
couldn't
happens
be
when you
helped.
Which was
Take Me
very
Home
cash
Tonight,
money.
God damn it. Act 4 is where the story resumes, and it opens with Hunter and Pierre the thief talking about the meaninglessness of life. Time passes, and we find Hunter on a boat just shy of arriving back in America. He spends this time, it's very expositional, reflecting on misleading, how he was hurt in the city, how that relationship led him to go to the war. He thinks about his mother, the whole nine. The oracles visit him again as a cautionary motif to what could lay ahead if he isn't careful. Advice, of course, that he ignores. So back in America,
You aren't my dad.
that's the tragic thing, because it is a tragedy, the story.
Yes.
And that is the tragic thing, and that's why the oracles are there. And every single time, and you know that like there's a very particular way that you can tell that it's the oracles in the songwriting structure, and it just sucks because like you want to root for this guy, but you don't know why. He doesn't give you a lot of reasons to root for him. You know?
Yeah, I mean, much like someone who I have a lot of affection for, it's as though Hunter keeps saying, well, it hasn't fallen off yet, and just proceeds to keep...
He definitely lives his life like a twat.
He drives it like he stole it. Let's say that.
So back in America, he assumes the role of the son. So when story explanations happen, they use the term "the son" with a capital S to indicate his half-brother. So he returns to the deceased man's mother. She accepts him with open arms, happy to see her son after also losing her husband, though she's quietly suspicious that he is not actually her son.
Drama.
You smell different.
Just like hugs, and then you just hear a, you smell different.
I've never used camphor in my life. What are you doing?
Is that a new shampoo?
I thought you were a Dapper Dan man.
Indeed. It's the briny depths of the ocean I've just come from, Mother.
Well, Hunter later, at some point in the first, I think, they never established a time frame, but I would imagine within the first week of him being back, is kidnapped, and he's freaking the fuck out. But then he realizes that he was kidnapped by a couple of his half-brother's friends, thinking, you know, he's assuming this role now. Like, this is his life, so he has to, like, oh, fuck, yeah, you got me good, guys, instead of, like, literally thinking that he was about to die. But they take him out on the town to celebrate, which is A Night on the Town, which is a very popular song in their discography.
Mm-hmm.
During this time, while getting drunk and catching up, they tell the boy that his fiance must be excited to see him, which is kind of news to Hunter.
Drama.
Yeah, and he's trying to maintain his identity, you know, and not like let it slip. He gets drunk with his newfound friends, wondering if they knew that it's not really him, and pretending like if they don't care, like if they notice that it's not a one-to-one relationship, but it's close enough, you know, like maybe he's just fucked up from the war. And
it's like, imagine the paranoia that has to exist in your mind when you're trying to assume someone else's identity with no frame of reference for who that person is or any of their circumstances.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking when I was looking at the story again, where it's like, okay, so you need to maintain your identity, but then you go and you get just shit house wrecked with these guys. Like, it doesn't really track for me because I would not be able to keep that secret in.
It's also like there's only so much that shell shock can explain away.
Right.
He's dancing on the floor. Oh no, it's just because of the war. Don't worry about it.
So during this evening, he's looking up the moon and he's existentially wondering, which is basically his trope, is just staring up at the sky, being like, why?
Very Luke Skywalker
Yes.
of him, just.
He wonders how long he can keep the stolen identity bit, and wonders if he should just end the charade. It's about during this time frame in the 20s-ish, and everyone's celebrating the end of the war. Hunter, however, cannot enjoy the celebration as he tries to maintain the identity. This is rambling on. During the drunken night, though, he does notice someone kind of important working behind the bar, and that is Misleading. She's back in the picture, baby.
More drama.
You're gonna crumb.
Ding, ding.
Before
I'm gonna
he can
chunk.
Oh, Jesus.
All
And
this
so-
drama, man.
That's actually what Hunter was thinking too. He's like, if I see her again, I'm gonna chunk. But before
And
he has
me
a
without
chance,
taking my Dramamine.
before he can do anything though, he passes out from overconsumption. How
How does that song end? Does it just end like abruptly, or does it actually end like a normal song? Because I feel like if it's singing about him blacking out and passing out, I feel like it should just cut off.
I know for a fact that in the time of our friendship that you've accidentally heard the song like playing at the bar. If I was picking the music,
most likely, yes.
But
He was
a night
drunk.
on the I mean me too.
Like me, yeah, mostly all the time.
A Night on the Town is just shy of 10 minutes long.
That's usually how long I last on the town. That was a bad joke. Continue.
I was so afraid of where that was going.
Oh man, yeah, my
And how?
butthole clenched a little bit. Yeah.
And,
Yeah, so it's a pretty traditional song structure for the most part. The end tale is him seeing misleading, and what they do is there's a motif that was in Act 2 from the song The Bittersweet, so they tease in the bittersweet to indicate musically that the character has returned.
The game is afoot.
The game is afoot. So it's essentially like her theme, like the music that she's known for, comes back in, and that's how you as a listener picks up that she's there. Anyway, and then it ends. Yeah, like kind of like drifts off and tails off like you're falling asleep.
Oh, cool. Okay. I appreciate that. I like that.
The story picks up as Hunter wakes up and is introduced to his fiancée for the first time, now adopted into the life that he's stolen.
You smell different.
Yeah, you smell different.
I'm remembering it bending to the left. This is new.
You know, that is a definite...
I know the balls.
And you really hope you don't, like Michael Jackson before you hope you don't have any identifying characteristics that could have been drawn in a sketch.
Right. She doesn't seem surprised to find him hungover after a night of heavy binge drinking, and this makes Hunter quietly wonder how hard he's going to even have to try to assimilate into this life, because in his head, he has his war hero half-brother as like a god, and then he's just here. He's like, "Oh yeah, you're a degenerate. Makes sense that I found you basically asleep in your own puke."
Typical Monday, huh? Okay.
But in a song where she's the main point of view, you learn that the fiancé realizes that the man she was in love with is different from who he is now. They're walking to church that morning, and the fiancé is wondering if the war changed Hunter, or the son, and questions like what happened to their love because he's not acting the same. Because he's not. The fiancé concludes that this isn't the man that she fell in love with, and she doesn't know exactly who Hunter is, but she keeps inferring that, that there might be those like familial bonds. And even though that her husband or husband-to-be died in the war, she can see how broken Hunter is as a person, I guess. It's very wish-washy here, and it's not a very compelling character, because she's like, well, if he's broken enough to fake his identity, he must really need this. I'll check it out. I'll stick around.
Sounds legit. I'll hang.
And that's not bullshit. Like, learning Act 4 and 5 story again, this is the part that was really weird for me to like wrap my head around. Because if Becky came back home after the book club that she's at tonight, and she had her other, and I found out by deducing that it wasn't her, I don't think I would stick around and be chill with that. Like
Let's see where this ends. Let's go.
Yeah,
for
I wouldn't
it.
be like, contrary to what Shane believes, I wouldn't be like, well, if my dick doesn't fall off, I guess I can have a fake wife.
Well, I mean, let's also put ourselves in the proper context here, as you are talking about the war. So there are not a lot of available young men just ambling around. You lost a significant amount. So, I mean, she's basically kind of going, it's probably not a lot of other options. So this guy's here and he still leans to the left. So why not?
No news is
He
good
kind of looks
news.
like my dead, future husband. So
Hey, good
I
enough.
close my eyes, yeah.
But he fucks like a god.
I
There's
think
no
he might have been
Dana,
projecting
only
a little bit there.
So they back to the story. They get to church, and Hunter notices a very familiar face, and that is the pimp and the priest. During the time, like the war effectively shut the dime down, so the priest has to save souls the old-fashioned way now. He can't tip the scales. He actually has to, save face. He gives a roaring sermon about how corrupt the city overall is, while still implying the more money in his pocket, the better the chances that overall salvation will be, which I don't see the fiction there.
Nope.
You're not wrong.
This
Hunter-
story is modeled after real events.
Right. Hunter is oddly stirred by this monologue, and I think a lot of it has to do with seeing basically your nemesis at this point. Like, God damn yous!
He just sits there and he just points the whole time at him like, I'm onto your tricks.
Like the angry monkey on Family Guy.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly what I was picturing.
Okay.
Well, this fills this character with a sense of revenge, and Hunter decides the best way that he can fight the corruption in the city is by running and becoming mayor, like running for and becoming mayor. of the town. So he wants to fix the problems from within.
It's the Jesse Ventura story.
Sure.
Someone is laughing somewhere. And it's probably a resident of the great state of Minnesota.
Probably.
Indeed.
The fiance loves this idea for Hunter, even using her father's role as a senator to help Hunter campaign. Meanwhile, the pimp and the priest also has noticed Hunter, and he's waiting in the background of this because he knows that it truly is Hunter. Like he recognizes the boy that used to work for him years ago, and he decides to hold on to that secret to unleash it at the right time.
Drama.
You imagine... God, Michael. You just envision the pimp and the priest slinking up to the pulpit, essentially, with a little snake-like pair of nostrils and going, Hunter, the boy who lived, come to die.
And that is 2 episodes in a row. That's great, though. Actually, what they show him wearing, I mean, it could be Voldemort underneath. But what they show him wearing on the cover of Act 4 is this dude walking around in a plague mask.
In a plague
outfit,
mask, yes.
And that is the character of the Pimp and the Priest.
That is absolutely my favorite. One, it's my favorite album of the cycle, and it's also my favorite cover. It's really emblematic, and like just the iconography of having the plague doctor kind of visage is really disturbing and impactful when you see it. You're like, oh, okay, I got this.
Yeah, so nerdy side note here. The cover art for Act 4 and Act 5 were done by the same person. And when that box set got released that I was mentioning earlier on in the episode, they hired that person to come back and redesign the first 3 covers so that everything would be matched in the same artistic style. And you could Google that, or I will forget, but if one of you reminds me, I will find the images and link it into the show notes.
Done.
Anyway, so time passes. And the election cycle progresses with it. Hunter is becoming very popular with all the help that he has, and with this popularity comes more opposition. And while he started with the best of intentions on running a clean race and being the change he wants to see in the world, he very quickly finds himself falling into the old trap of manipulating situations to get rid of opponents. He Harvey Dents himself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
His fiancée warns him of this reckless behavior and how he is straying from his message, and in tradition, he ignores the advice.
He is back on the escalator again.
He's back on the escalator, and he also wins the election. Misleading sees the news of the election results and immediately knows, again, that it's Hunter. So the guy's not very good at keeping secrets. I mean, I guess he only ran with like one crowd before he went to the war. So anyway, they all magically find out that he is alive and well. And she catches up with him, and they hit it off right where they left off. And now that he's older and he's gone to war, you know, he's hardened in more ways than one.
He's a man now.
So you smell different.
Must have been all that time in the briny depths.
So they start having an affair, and Hunter morally justifies this to himself by being one like, well, this is the girl that I lost my virginity to, and also like the election kind of put a damper on my marriage. Like I didn't choose to he's like, I didn't choose to be married to this broad. Like I just came back across the sea and
Drama.
Anyway.
I mean, really, it's only my dick that's going into misleading, and it's, you know, the son's dick I have to use on this other woman.
Yeah, he's leading a double life.
He's Hulk Hoganing this. Yes, he's playing the whole like, well, Terry Bollea, you know, he's average, but you know, Hulk Hogan has like a 9-inch dick, brother.
What if it's even worse and he's like, yeah, you've heard of one Christmas, but what about 2 Christmas?
What about second Christmas? 11sies. New Year's. St. Patrick's Day.
He's just going around like going to dinner parties with both of them and changing the outfit.
No, he's doing the Two-Face route. He's just kind of like half suit on either side, and yeah.
Well, Hunter gets down to mayoral business, and first thing first, he goes after the pimp and the priest, just like he was planning to do all along. He wants to destroy the dime and then expose him for the snake that he really is. And by snake, I, of course, mean he's Voldemort. He wants to expose that he's actually Voldemort. However, before he can even begin, he's approached by the pimp and the priest himself, and he tells Hunter that he knows his identity. He knows who his mom was. He knows who he is, who he was, who he fucking.
I know who you're with.
And he essentially is like, hey, at this point, like, if I exposed everything, it would kind of cripple the city. It wouldn't really do much good outside of just ruining the infrastructure of everything that we all know. So how about instead of me ruining everyone's life, you just do me some favors here and there, and you don't tell anybody what I do, and you don't come after me.
It's in our best interest that you and I remain friends.
Yes. So Act 4 ends on this very Empire Strikes Back note, with Hunter kind of being in disarray because he's been planning for the course of, months and months and months now how he was going to win, only to have found out that it was an empty gesture.
And again, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it.
Yep. So that's the end of Act 4. And we are on to the final act that has been released. And that would be Act 5. We return to the story for a final time with the Oracles. And they're telling Hunter that they're basically done with his bullshit. He's gone too far. He's ignored them at every turn of the way. They've given him nothing but opportunities to not be here. And they essentially tell him, you're going to die, but we're going to cross our fingers that it's not too painful. Bye. And then they bounce. So a time jump has happened again. So after every album, it's almost like a chapter in this guy's life. So he's in his 30s at the beginning of this act, and he's strung out in an opium den. Adding addiction to the list of his moral crimes, he also recounts his affair with Misleading and his partnership now with the pimp and the priest, because I guess the pimp and the priest has, surprise, surprise, been extorting him and making him do more and more, and using his position as mayor to get more things passed. In a drug-fueled vision, he sees his mother, who tells him that only by doing right towards his younger self can he truly be redeemed, which he just chalks up to a hallucination. So, as he stumbles high through the city, he thinks on how he's not followed up on any of his mayoral promises. Anything he does now politically is met with disdain, and he's become a puppet, much like the ones that he was seeking to replace and get rid of altogether. During this drug-addled trip, he finds himself in the church, and he kind of just passes out in a pew. And he wakes up to hear his nemesis telling a parable about a gambler who tried to win against the devil himself. Despite almost winning, he ultimately showed his hand too soon and lost his soul. And he's like, I'm sitting right here, dude. Like,
bro.
Drama?
Unnecessary.
Is this
Shots
show
fired.
about us?
Yeah. So, like I was saying before, the pimp and the priest is using Hunter's position to fund the reopening of the dime. Is essentially like what he was getting at. Hunter realizes that the pimp and the priest is even more relentless than he thought, and only has one silver lining, and that's that he still gets to smash Misleading, because that's the only thing that really keeps him sane at this point, is that sweet, sweet meat. So...
Why'd you put it that way?
Mrs. Lovett's meat pies?
I guess you can never forget your first or your 110th. We are then introduced to a new character, and that is Mr. Usher, which probably would be Michael's favorite song on the album because it's a big band jazz song.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
But
Like that you're
Some
dancing
head
like the
bobbing.
girl from Ipanema just came on.
Well, that song
I can just picture it.
starts with a nice
Groovy.
like Usher, Usher, right? That's how that one goes.
yeah, it does. It's actually just a cappella.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
right after that, he goes, yeah.
Butterfly in the
Okay.
sky. Success of the Dime is heard far and wide, and that includes Mr. Usher. Mr. Usher is a relic of his time, someone far worse than the pimp and the priest. Once a politician, he's a very successful businessman who has ties to the mafia. Secretly, we learn that he is the literal devil, and he wants the dime. He likes what the pimp and the priest has built, and he thinks that maybe he could do it even better. Maybe get some souls, farm to table. So,
Well done.
Mr. Usher heads to the city and finds the best route to get what he wants, the dime, is to take control of Hunter, and then he'll, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
So Mr. Usher approaches Hunter with an offer of taking down the pimp and the priest, promising him a way out. Hunter sees the evil within Mr. Usher, and through the course of a conversation, which the song, it's called The Haves Have Not, there's two vocalists on the song. There's Casey, and then the second verse is their pianist at the time, Gavin Castleton. It sounds like a Disney song. Like I could literally, like when you hear the song, if you're not seeing animation, I guess we're not on the same drugs, so it's probably not going to happen. But
it has also
Bro.
a very Sweeney Todd-esque sort of, because they're going around and talking about the certain positions that people have and sort of the charlatans out in the public, essentially.
They even do, oh my God, I just pieced together now. I think they do a Lydian scale harmony.
Whoa.
So the Lydian scale is very popular in like Disney and triumphant music. So the Lydian scale is meant to sound like, you're rising and you're rising and you're rising.
Right.
So in the Haves Have Not, like Gavin and Casey harmonize with their narrative viewpoints, much like a Disney duet. Anyway, sorry for the the tirade there, but
That's what we're here for. We're just
So-
talking about how Willie Nelson's fingers blissfully glide over guitar strings for 2 episodes. I think we can indulge you in a little music theory.
Just a little.
It just proves that I do retain some of the information on YouTube.
Indeed.
Haha.
Take that, Michael.
You know
I had
what?
Pictures and information, and I got both.
Strangely enough, you smell different.
So the conversation that they have in that song is that Hunter sees the citizens of the city as people trying to find happiness in a world of just darkness. It's like it's their responsibility to provide opportunities for their life to be better. Meanwhile, Mr. Usher sees them as tools, a means to an end. So Mr. Usher encourages Hunter to consider his offer, and Hunter's just left wondering how evil Mr. Usher truly can be. In the background, Hunter and his wife, or now his wife, was the fiance, have had a child. And even though their relationship is broken, Hunter loves his son more than anything he could have ever imagined, even more than cheating on his wife, apparently. So he also fully knows now that the city's too corrupt to be saved. So he's like Batman throwing in the fucking towel. So he thinks of ways to get out, like things like he just wants to escape the situation, and he comes to the realization that he should just send his wife and his child back to the lake and the river, to the cabin where he grew up, and maybe like that's the escape route. Like they'll set up a life there.
It worked before.
Yeah. So he sends them there. They're gone. They're out of the city. Mr. Usher is continuing on his evil plans and approaches the pimp and the priest like the slippery devil he is. And he explains that Hunter is slipping from his control, and that in order to keep him in line, he has to show him how far he's willing to go. And they they decide the best way to show Hunter a lesson is to kill Misleading, which they do.
Whoa.
So when Hunter learns of this, he becomes a little bit angry at these knuckleheads. He
Just
also,
They were
Sad.
being too crazy.
yeah, he also realizes that Misleading's now dead. His wife and child are safe in an undisclosed location to the other guys, so he can approach the situation a little more directly. So what he does in retaliation is just burn down the dime. He just goes, just berserk and just burns the fucker to the ground. However, he doesn't take into account of wind, and he starts catching the city on fire around the dime. Which I'm thinking back on, and like how the infrastructure was back in those times. Like it probably would happen just like that. It would probably be a huge domino.
The best laid plans of mice and men oft go ablaze, apparently.
Yeah. So the citizens see the church on fire, and they're a little bit angry. And the pimp and the priest comes around, and he's like, you know what? You should be a lot more angry. And he finally tells basically the whole town who Hunter really is. A man with a stolen identity who killed somebody to get it. A cynic who burned the house of God to the ground. The wolf coming for his flock and convinces them that they have to kill the wolf before the wolf kills them. So the angry mob is gathered, and they all march to Hunter's house, where the pimp and the priest enters alone. Inside, the pimp and the priest tells Hunter essentially, you are fucked. You are so fucked. You are fucking fuck. You fucking suck.
And not in the way that you used to get to, pay for previously.
Hunter has his Marvel cinematic universe moment of, I've been the deer hunter all along. No, what if the deer hunter was the hunters we met along the way? He accepts his identity in this moment, realizing, his back's to a wall, so he just stabs the pimp and the priest to death. Like he's rage too. Like this guy killed his fuck buddy. So you got
and his mother. Let's not forget, which is
and his mother.
The more important aspect here.
And I just imagine Mr. Usher far back from the mob, just slow stroking it, because this is exactly how his plan was designed. You can't lose if you don't have competition, so he pits them both against each other, so they both die, so he can take over the town. So Hunter, probably blood on his hands, knows that his life is basically over at this point. The mob's definitely not going to let him live. Not only did he set the church on fire, he killed the priest.
Not talking your way out of this one. Like, I swear this is just altruism.
He just fell on my knife 30 times. I don't know why he kept doing it.
It's another slip and fall accident. Seriously.
He just got up and he fell forward. He got up, slipped, he fell backwards. And
it was really slippery.
I'm oddly triggered
on
by
his blood, but
because the movie that I was mentioning that I saw earlier was the new Ty West movie called X, and there is definitely a scene just like that. Anyway, so with no way out, really, Hunter, and I think they never really described geography, and I don't know how you really would in a music, whatever. But it's alluded to that he lives close to the river, maybe on a cliffside or a hillside. So he just decides to leap to his death into the river. So,
like you do.
In his final seconds, which is the last song in Act 5, he sees images kind of like, oh my God, it's almost exactly like when the end of Return of the Jedi. He's like on the bridge and he's seeing like the ghost of Obi-Wan. He's seeing the ghost of Yoda. But in his final seconds, he's seeing images of Miss Terry, Miss Leading, his half-brother, all the people that have loved him. And they're standing by a tree near the lake. And they
missed a really excellent chance to reintroduce the oracles and like, we fucking told you.
Yeah. But anyway, that's where the story essentially ends at this point, is with him dying. And there's been teases that Act 6 is him in an afterlife, or realizing that he is trapped in a cyclical kind of endeavor. And that's why the lake and the river is a motif, is because he always ends up returning to the river.
Ooh.
No matter what he does.
Hunter in hell.
Dear Hunter, Act 10. That is the story of the Axe.
Cool.
Thank you for letting me verbally vomit for
Well,
45 minutes. But you asked for this.
We did.
Whether you were
yes.
sarcastic or serious, you fucking asked
Repeatedly,
for it.
and a
Technically,
lot.
we didn't really ask for it, but I mean, like, Kristen was like, hey, when are you going to finish that, asshole? And,
I said, joke's on you. I finish nothing that I start.
That's why you don't have kids yet, but...
Can't have competition if they don't exist.
Indeed. Well, I have 2 stabs. Neither of them be the pimp and the priest.
Sick.
Does he actually have like a fever dream where he speaks to his mother at the beginning of Act 5?
Yeah, so like the first 3 songs in Act 5 are all druggy. So it's the first songs on the album are The Moon Awake. And the moon is essentially him in the opium den, and awake is him having trips, talking to his dead mother, and she's kind of letting him know that he fucked up.
You fucked up.
And then Cascade, which is one of my favorite Deer Hunter songs overall,
which is beautiful,
is him tripping balls in the woods. I think it's like going where the wild things wouldn't go. Hate the sinner, don't hate the sin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And then is Act 6 actually supposed to be a cyclical? He's in hell essentially.
Not in hell. Like it's not a lie in there. That actually was not in
Okay.
my script at all. It's just
We're just
you know,
presupposing.
it's back to the I know a lot about this because I was so heavy into it.
Feverishly died into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the community and Casey has mentioned on forums and stuff that it's gonna be. What it really reminds me of now, and I hadn't have read it then, is Dark Tower.
It kind of has that purgatory kind of feel.
Yeah. So
Okay.
without giving too
All
much
right.
away.
Well, as evidenced, I'm very familiar with the music and the lyrical content, but I do not study the story, nor have I taken the time to
Also,
really ferret it out. Still,
I'm gonna stress it again, and I hope that you guys give it an honest go. Like, there's YouTube. I will link it in the fucking notes. There's someone who put all 5 acts back to back on a YouTube upload, so you can just have it on in the background. And if you listen to it as one continuous thing, it's great. Especially if you have the story in the back of your head, you'll start catching things, and it makes a lot of sense. I don't know how the fuck you can even do it, because we wrote a concept album and it's not even a quarter of like a quarter is intricate, you know.
yeah, it's not even like a 60th as intricate.
It's not even
comparatively.
it's not even an attempt at
Yeah.
Not even the word intricate.
Anyway, did either of you guys have any stabs?
Was Mr. Usher actually involved with the mafia?
Based on what they've uncovered of the story, yes.
We'll call it organized crime, and
Sure.
mafia was just the lack of a better term, I think.
Okay.
How about you, Michael? You got anything?
Aside from my mouth to keep from saying stupid stuff, no.
Nice. Well,
I-
you did get the only. Oh, go ahead, Courtney. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say though, like this story would really only happen to a man. Like this going
Dude,
back
fucking
to
right,
like
though.
the same town and then being shocked when like you run into your old buddies when you've assumed somebody else's life and then being like, how did you get here?
And then being a victim, be like, how could this fucking happen to me? And I love this story. Like I love the acts a lot, but I completely agree. Well,
No,
Michael,
we've talked about this, and it's the reason why I will probably never do a Coheed and Cambria episode, is that I love the music, and I do really appreciate the concept, but some of the actual, like, minute-to-minute storytelling things that happen, like in the comics, for instance, I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, really? That's the leap that you went for?
yeah.
And yeah, so some of it is really absurd to almost an obscene degree, where it's really difficult to wrap your head around it. But I'm like, I love the music, I appreciate what went into crafting this, obviously, but yeah, some of it's you're like, oh, okay, kids.
Right. Well, Michael, you caught that it's episode 3. That was an actual lie that I had in there. So you got one.
Ooh.
Alamo Drafthouse was actually founded in 1997.
Fuck off.
Sorry, we're not like stands for. I'm sorry, Majestic Phoenix, as it's now called.
Yeah,
so.
at least out here. Also, Hunter's mom is not murdered. They actually allude, and Casey's confirmed that she just dies of like natural causes, like kind of like old agey kind of stuff, which is a development that happened after the episode that I'd presented.
Okay.
So, to the best of,
see,
to the
and I was
best of
always
the
under the
story
impression
knowledge.
she got killed.
Yeah, and that's what I thought too. So again,
I mean, isn't that
these are all
something they
conjecture.
imply in the comic though as well? Like they show like a guy standing behind her as though she's going to be strangled.
Yeah, I don't remember. So maybe. Anyway, to the best of the sources there, but I forgot to go reread the comics. So you're probably right, Shane. But
Okay, I just have a very either it's like cover art or something where like she's there and there's someone looming behind her, and maybe that's metaphorical.
if
Who
we
knows?
have to housekeep next week, we
Some
can.
Reaper vibes.
Yeah.
Noted.
Also at the beginning of Act 4, Hunter and the thief never meet again. They don't reconvene.
I was
to
gonna
talk.
say, because I thought he was already on the boat going back.
Yeah.
So why would Pierre be?
Well, Pierre might be wanting to explore the glorious Americas.
Oh, I
he
heard
want-
about your French fries.
No, there's different smells there.
There are plenty of different smells there.
And then my final lie is that Mr. Usher is not the literal devil. Casey said in an interview, because he did that and I mentioned it on episode 3. Like he did a story time thing where like you'd get a VIP meet and greet when they were doing what they called the final act tour. And someone asked them like, is Mr. Usher supposed to be the devil? And he was like, I don't think that, no, I don't know. He's not the devil. He goes, the idea was for him to be just a regular person, which I think is infinitely more terrifying, that someone would just behave that way and not like there's nothing supernatural about it. He's just tip to tail piece of shit, you know?
Yeah, because I feel like it kind of detracts when it's like, oh yeah, he is the devil incarnate. It's like, does he need to be?
They also lead into that by saying, as he was talking about, like it's illustrated by a parable where they're essentially talking about a guy who sold his soul to the devil, and then they immediately introduce a character who is more or less depicted as having that same sort of vibe. So the metaphor somewhat leads you to the idea, but I don't think they ever expressly state that he is the epitome of all that is evil. He's just a horrible human being.
Yeah, just a fucking asshole. Yeah. But anyway, that's all I had for you.
Well, I personally will say I found this far more entertaining than the first stab at this. So, well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad this isn't weighing on me anymore.
Good.
I almost spilled the beans like 3 times this week. I was like, this is the funniest joke that I could ever pull on these guys.
It was great. I really enjoyed that.
Just the
10
reaction,
out of 10.
The reaction of you guys realizing what we were talking about today. That was a serotonin boost that I greatly needed. So.
Good.
And anyway, so next week.
I was going to say, so how's everyone doing?
Oh, here we go. Well, that is immensely appreciated, and yes, most enjoyable. So congratulations on completing the circle.
Feels good, man. I'll be right back at the start.
In fact, breaking the cycle, if you will.
I can't choose a pun.
No,
There's
nor
too
should
many.
you. Well, ladies and germaphobes, as always, we sincerely appreciate your attentive listening at this point, because we can hear you breathing out there. We know you're still here. And this is a major payoff for some of you who have been around since the onset. In particular, hi, Kristen. I'm sure that you're very excited by this.
Yeah, I'm super good about this. It was such a good fucking episode.
I mean, we've heard her before.
Fuck.
We know she doesn't sound like a puppet.
Prove it.
If you had said you were going to
won't.
sell your panties to somebody, I might have believed you, but...
I'm drunk on my birthday.
I
like a heathen. Yeah.
Yeah. So in any event, we appreciate you putting paid to something that has been lingering for quite some time. And if you want to put paid to something, you know what you can do? You can go and give us a little support. So you can rate, review, you can subscribe, because naturally you're going to get continuity finally fulfilling itself eventually. Like, these are the payoffs you live for, friends and listeners. Very important. And of course, in the link tree below, you can find all of our relevant social information, so you can go stalk us in whatever your preferred platform and see what we're doing over here. You can see Michael just have a dazed expression for at least 45 seconds, which is just exquisite.
You would not believe your eyes.
Indeed.
You would not believe your eyes.
You would not believe your eyes.
You would not believe your eyes.
We've already fulfilled the actual running sort of melodic content
You
there,
know what?
Michael.
Michael is a person I would see ignoring oracles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most
Be
definitely.
like, you are not my dad. Just walk away from them.
It's not
Yeah.
very cash money of you to foretell my doom.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
going to die on my own terms.
I'm going to die on my own terms in a backyard taco.
Hell yeah. The only way to go.
Roll Tide?
Roll.
That's something you say a
Sure.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, now that you say
Drama?
that, a backyard taco does sound like a euphemism that was not explored thoroughly enough.
Yikes.
Oh boy.
Oh, boy.
Yowza. Okay, well, we're going to kill this before it spreads, just like a backyard taco. But I caused a spit take. All right. On record. We've got this on full lactators ringing running here.
He's drooling all over the place. What is going on?
My shirt's so wet.
Good?
Ooh.
Do you like that, you little...
I like it when you spit take me, daddy.
It's
Harken
called
back
art.
to-
Look it up.
Indeed. Harken to a previous installment. I'm sorry, John. Are you okay?
You smell different.
Indeed. Feel different, too.
Guys, is there something on my shirt?
So what you're saying is you're feeling good and getting wetter. But
How bad is it?
it's a yellow lead wetter. Or a yellow bedwetter, either way. Okay, well, I think that is going to officially wrap us up. We're going to go get John a towel, and we're going to finish this like the end of most good evenings with a shower and some apologies. So, for the Disinformed podcast this week, I'm Shane.
I'm wet. I'm John.
I'm Michael.
I'm Courtney.
And zippity zoop, we're out of here.
Sopping.
You need the toaster for that to work, John, not just the water.
God damn it. Directions were unclear.
Lather, rinse, repeat. Who can follow this shit?